Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast, college football edition. Today, we are going to be talking about Championship Saturday. And as of recording right now, we are waiting the final playoff rankings to see who the final four is for the college football playoffs. We have our college football expert, the captain, Byron Mitchell. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good today. No complaints. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Typical stuff here where we live. A Saturday where a lot of Buckeye fans have not been used to in the past 5 years, not being in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, it was weird watching Michigan and Iowa go at it in the Big Ten championship. But, sometimes you got to let little brother get a chance.
Ooh, I actually have something about that coming later on because spoiler alert, Michigan's going to be in no matter what. So, but we're going to first, let's talk about the Buckeyes. Byron, you want to talk about some good Buckeye news or some not so good Buckeye news?
Let's start with bad and go good.
Okay, we'll see. So Buckeyes, we are losing Jack Miller and Quinn Ewers. Both of them are entering the transfer portal. If everyone remembers, they are two out of the four talented quarterbacks that we had underneath our roster this year. Jack announced about a couple so ago. Quinn was just this week, which is kind of crazy how Ohio State could lose Quinn Ewers and Jack Miller, and our QB room is so. And there's just Ryan Day's just like, that he just signs the next QB of the 22 class. And with Quinn Ewers, people forget, like, if he actually would have went, because he came early because he couldn't get any name, image, or likeness up in Texas. If he would have just graduated, he was the number one quarterback player in the 2022 class, but he reclassified to 2021, and he sat the year, and he's like, all right, I'm out. So, Byron, what do you think? What do you think of those two guys leaving? Because now we only have McCord. Yeah, McCord's the only backup we got as of right now until the new guy gets here.
Yes, I was not surprised about Jack Miller since he had that DUI a couple of weeks ago or a month or so ago. So I figured he would transfer out after getting the DUI. But I was very surprised that Quinn Ewers entered the transfer portal on Friday, which is right after we signed that new, I think he's a 5-star quarterback recruit for next year.
Devin Brown, number 4 quarterback in the class of 2022. It looks like they have him as a 4-star.
Okay, 4-star. Which I don't know why they signed another quarterback when we need so much help on defense, but do your thing, Ryan Day. So, I was surprised, but then once I realized, we just signed another quarterback, I wasn't surprised at the same time because Quinn Ewers has an NIL deal, and we don't know, what the contract is. Does he get the money if he plays, or does he not get the money if he doesn't play? So I think it's probably just a personal choice to, I need to go somewhere and play just to make sure I, secure this NIL deal.
Right. And like you brought up defensive people, there have been people who've tweeted, the transfer portal is basically free agency. And they've said Ohio State needs to grab at least 2 linebackers, maybe a safety, and a massive defensive tackle in the transfer portal to help them out. And getting another quarterback, because now going into mixing the good news of a quarterback, they also left because a guy who wanted Quinn Ewers to replace after the third game, a guy named CJ Stroud or Jack Miller, whoever. They wanted CJ to be replaced by them in the third game. He won Offensive Player of the Year, Quarterback of the Year, and Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten, the first player in history to win all 3. And they wanted him benched in the third game. But once he won all those awards, I think it's funny. That's when Quinn's like, all right, I'm out. Because now you see that he just won those awards. CJ's not going anywhere unless he gets hurt or he decides to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I don't see CJ Stroud going until maybe his junior year. Maybe. I hope he stays all 4 years because he's a great quarterback. I know me and you have been fans of him since the first game. Took some other Buckeye fans a while to catch on to the hype, but it's okay. CJ Stroud's a Heisman finalist. Run 3 awards in the Big Ten Conference. He maybe he had been a Heisman winner if he hadn't been injured that one game. And then, maybe end up playing in the Big Ten championship. But I am excited to see how he grows as his career as a Buckeye is just beginning.
Yeah, agreed. It's funny too how Quinn is looking like he could potentially be going back to, like, he was getting looked at Texas and all that. So now he might be going back there. It'll be interesting to see where he signs. I have a suggestion for him or Jack Miller if they want to stick it to OSU, because we're just going to shout him out because he is an OSU alumni. Marcus Freeman getting the Notre Dame job. I think one of them should try and go to Notre Dame.
That would
if you're that good, go to Notre Dame. Your first game is in Columbus. You're adding more storylines for people who aren't hit. Marcus Freeman was a Buckeye, still technically is a Buckeye, but so go there.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting first game. A former quarterback going against a person he lost the starting job to. So it'd be a very interesting matchup. Congratulations to Marcus Freeman for getting that head coaching job at Notre Dame after Brian Kelly left and went to LSU and obtained a fake Southern accent. Yep. What a guy.
that was wild stuff. And then obviously the stuff on Quinn Ewers is crazy because this commercial just came out like yesterday and he's already announced he's leaving. He had 2 snaps, 2 handoffs, $1 million name, image, and likeness deal. So Byron, now the college football playoff final selection shows just started. They're talking to their reporters in the different locations. We're going through some of the games. Friday, the 3rd, Pac-12 championship, Utah just blew out Oregon again. Oregon could have had a chance to go to the Rose Bowl, and Utah said, nope, we're going to smoke you 2 out of the past 3 weeks. Really embarrassing.
Yeah, they say it's hard to beat the same team twice, but Utah proved that we got it. They killed them in their first matchup 2 weeks ago, and then they killed them on Friday. I really thought Oregon was going to come back with a vengeance and wanted to face Ohio State again in the Rose Bowl, but Utah's like, nah, we got this. You guys can sit.
So Utah becomes the Pac-12 champion. First game of the Saturday Big 12 championship. Baylor comes out on top against Oklahoma State 21-16, and literally a game of inches. If Oklahoma State's player was like 6'8", they would have won, but they literally lost on the inch line. That was a wild game. Oklahoma State was number 5, and if they would have beat Baylor, they would have been a Big 12 champ with 1 loss. So that could have really made some noise for today. Byron, currently right now, if you're watching the thing as well, they're having the case for number 1 on a side note, Alabama and Michigan.
I think
we know what's going to happen.
But we know what's going to happen. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if they put Michigan at number 1. I mean, they beat a game. Ohio State bullied Iowa in the Big 12 championship. Not Big 12, Big 10 championship. I think the final score was 42-3. So, I mean, 2 impressive wins against top 15 teams back-to-back. Make them number 1.
Back to the Big 12 championship game. Yeah, Oklahoma State, if they would have won, they would have been very interesting, but I don't think they would have gotten in because of the SEC championship game, which we'll get to. But Baylor wins, and Baylor was number 9 in the country, Byron. The last time they were 10-2, number 9 in the country. They played this weekend and just won the Big 12 championship game. So I'm just only reason I'm saying that is for people who said they needed all these things to happen for Ohio State to get in. I was like, well, Baylor has the same record as you and now has a conference championship.
Yeah, and they've always said conference championships matter.
So they should be ranked ahead of you. But I'm just throwing that out because, some Ohio State fans were thinking, oh, if all these things happen, we can get in. I was like, well, if Iowa would have won, they would have been 11-2. Baylor won. They're 11-2. That's 2 conference championships. You don't think they're going to be in the realm or jump above Ohio State if all that craziness happened? Like, what are we doing here?
I don't know if Iowa. I can see Baylor jumping Ohio State.
Well,
But
Baylor's 9 and OSU's 7, and they played. They
yeah,
would have jumped them.
yeah, but I don't know if Iowa would have jumped us because they were 13. If they had a one, I don't think they would have
13.
jumped.
Well, look at the teams in front of them who didn't play. BYU, Michigan State, Oregon. Baylor would have gone up. Ole Miss, so they would have jumped far.
They would have jumped far for sure.
So that's 6 people, and like the people in between us and them. Most of them don't even play, and the only one to go up is Baylor. It's just like they just beat the team that just smashed us.
True.
So it's like one of those things where I was like, I could see why I worked, but I was like, guys, if you're looking at, don't get your hopes up too much. All right, let's go to Cincinnati. They come out 35-20 against Houston. Houston was 11-1, by the way. They lost like their first game and just brought up flags. So that's a big win for them. And Cincinnati is the only school to finish undefeated in the regular season this year. Shout out to Luke Fickell, Ohio freaking legend.
Yes.
Shout out to Cincinnati, 13-0. And they will be marching into the playoffs. Byron, how do you feel? Why are they comparing Notre Dame, Cincinnati, and Baylor's resume?
I don't know. They're 13-0. They're one of the 4 best teams. I don't know why they're comparing Notre Dame and Baylor. But I'm very excited that Cincinnati won. I was rooting for them to make it far when they entered at number 5, I think it was like a month ago, in the rankings. So I'm happy that they made the playoffs. Congratulations, Luke Fickell, Ohio State representative. In a couple years, who knows? He might be the next Ohio State head coach.
When Ryan Day goes to the NFL.
Yep. I'm very excited. I will be rooting for them in the playoffs. I will also be rooting for Michigan because, the Big Ten representative. But if either of those 2 win, I'll be happy.
So the next game was the SEC championship game. This was the game where it had all the implications.
Mm-hmm.
Byron, we've said for months, literally months, since the first college football ranking, Georgia needs to beat Alabama to give another school a chance to get the 2 SEC teams out of there. Georgia started the game 10-0. Then Alabama ran 24 straight, and they never looked back. And it was 41-24. Alabama wins the SEC championship game, beats the number 1 team, Georgia, and now they're both getting in.
Yeah, Georgia had one job, and they couldn't do it. I don't know what's going on with Georgia. They can never win the big one.
Thank you. Now they'll get a chance in the playoff. They could try and pull a Alabama, what they did to Georgia a couple of years ago, where Alabama didn't win the SEC, and because they lost early, and then they lost to Georgia regular season, but then they beat them in the national championship. They could do that, but from what I saw last, Georgia was the number 1 defense in the country, allowing 6 to 7 points a game, and they couldn't sack Bryce Young once. But Auburn was able to get to Bryce Young 7 times.
I'm not going to say Georgia's defense is a fraud, but I don't think they have played a team like Alabama this season because Alabama's offense is great. Bryce Young is probably going to win the Heisman. Jameis Williams, the transfer from Ohio State, has had an amazing year as an Alabama wide receiver. John Minchie III had a great year as well.
He will not be playing in the bowl, the playoffs.
Yeah, because he injured his ACL, which sucks. Alabama's offense is great. I think they were 2nd behind Ohio State, and they just bullied Georgia's defense.
So my question with Georgia's with their defense, yeah, they were allowing those points, but now it's coming into question with people brought who they played. Obviously, the reason they've stayed number 1 is because they beat Clemson when it was 3-5. Where we said then is whoever loses that, their national championship season's over. So, and that happened to Clemson, and Georgia's been able to ride that wave. And it's just a fact, too, Byron, that literally last week, Alabama escaped in a 4 overtime game against Auburn.
With a backup quarterback.
Bo Nix wasn't even playing. It was a backup quarterback. And they survived a 10-7, basically, 4 overtime type ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
With Bryce Young having the drive from 97 to tie to send it to 4 overtimes. And then I was like, okay, if they can't score on Auburn, Georgia is going to kill them. And that was very wrong.
Yeah, I don't think Georgia's offense is that good.
We're going to have to wait and see. They're going to have like a month or so prepared for playoffs. And then Michigan trounced in the late cap, Iowa 42-3. Michigan's second week in a row scoring exactly 42 points. So, Brian, yeah, Michigan's going to be in the playoff. Jim Harbaugh wins his first Big Ten championship. And, Byron, I really was thinking about this when I was preparing for this show, that if Jim Harbaugh, because you said you're Big Ten representative, all that, there's a case they could be the one. They're not going to be. We know who it is. But if Michigan wins this title, let's say if they win the national championship, which Buckeye fans are not thinking about, if Michigan wins this title, they have the same amount of titles won in the past 10, 12 years to Ohio State.
Yes, because the last time we won one was 2014.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
We've had more cracks at the apple, but if Michigan wins a title this year, they have the same amount of national championships as Ohio State in the past 15 years. Isn't that crazy to like grasp in your brain?
That is crazy because Michigan has not been relatively doing well in bowl games like the last 5 to 10 years. But for them to come in their first playoff and to win the whole thing would be crazy. It would be the same thing Ohio State did in their first playoffs, 2014, where we beat Alabama and Oregon to win. So we'll see.
But what does that say about us, though? Because that means in the past, like, think about it. We've been killing Michigan, which also shout out to the GOAT. Happy birthday, Wolverine Slayer, Jim Tressel. Like, we've been smoking them since he made the promise in 2001. We got the title in 2002, but that's out of the past 15 years. We've won one title in the past 15 years, 2014 with Urban. If Harbaugh wins the title, man, I was really sitting there thinking, like, what have we been doing then? Because we've had more cracks and we have the same amount of titles as Michigan if they win the title this year.
That's true there. I mean, a couple of playoffs we have got killed. Like, we got killed against Alabama last year. That one game against Clemson, which no Ohio State fan will ever forget, the 31-0.
I'm also glad you brought those games up, Byron, because people have talked about, like, oh, Cincinnati's going to go to the playoffs and get killed. And that's not the point. The point is they did what they needed to do, and they should get in. Especially when I hear Buckeye fans talk about it, I was like, bro, Alabama, Ohio State's at number 6. Oh, yep. Oh, breaking news, guys. There's happening right now, the college football playoffs. So they went up. Dang, they said F Baylor. That's wild.
Well, I guess Notre Dame will probably be 5.
Yeah, unless they dropped Notre Dame because they didn't play.
But we didn't play either.
I know. That's wild.
Well, so now it begs the question, like, if Michigan, Alabama, and Cincinnati would have lost yesterday, would Ohio State be in the playoffs?
Now it could beg a question like that. Well, no, Notre Dame's at 5.
Okay.
So they stayed. That Michigan championship thing I was talking about just really blows my mind. And also with Georgia, because, all right, let's get this over. Me personally, we know Cincinnati's going to be at 4 because whatever, SEC. I can make the case Cincinnati has a better resume than Georgia.
They do. They beat Notre Dame and Houston.
And SMU. And conference championship. Who does Georgia beat? Who's the best team they beat? I want to know.
I would say Clemson, but I don't know.
I think it's Kentucky.
Or Kentucky because they were number 11 when they faced each other.
Like, what? like I could really make the case that it should be Georgia at 4, but they won't do that. We already said it's going to be Cincinnati 4, Georgia 3, Michigan 2, Alabama 1. Yes, sir. Good Bearcats at 4.
Should be number 3, but whatever.
It should be number 3, but hey.
Good job, Luke Ficklen. Congratulations.
We really could have been in there.
Oh, yeah, we could have had Ohio State versus Cincinnati. If they were ranked 4 and we were ranked 1, or if we both made it to the national championship together.
And Ohio versus the SEC. They make history, the first non-Power 5 school to make the playoff.
Yep, from the American Athletic Conference.
Also, the reason I wanted them at 3, Byron, I think they could beat Michigan. I think they match up very well against Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll have to go against a very talented Alabama offense.
Oh, no. Unfortunately, man, I can't trust Georgia now. It really might be Alabama versus Michigan in the title.
It might be.
Because I think Alabama's going to. I just want Saban to get his, 8th?
Yeah, that'll be his 8th. Jesus.
Like we were talking about guys that if you look, Saban has, man, pull up Nick Saban's Alabama titles. Georgia's at 3. So Georgia is at 3. They dropped 2 spots. I could almost make should they even have been in?
Georgia?
What's the difference between them and Notre Dame? Besides playing in a conference.
Because they played in a championship game and only have 1 loss in the season.
So they played in the championship game. That's the difference. Because Notre Dame only has 1 loss.
I know. To number 4 Cincinnati.
That's what I'm just curious. And they didn't get trounced. Georgia got embarrassed. That was embarrassing.
They really did get embarrassed. Jeez.
And they handed Bryce Young the Heisman.
Yes. Nick Saban has 7 national championships. 2003, 2009, 2011, 2012, 2015, 2017, and 2020.
Okay, so 7 total, 6 with Alabama.
Yes.
Guys, Nick Saban has 6 national championships with Alabama and 4 Heisman winners.
Yeah. Because Bryce Young is definitely about to
Bryce Young's going to win. That's why we're saying he's the 4th. He has Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Devontae Smith. So now he's won a Heisman. Running back, wide receiver, quarterback. 6 national championships, 4 Heismans.
He's a good. I don't. He wants to call you the Nick Saban.
The only time he didn't make the playoffs is with the Burrow year because they lost the SEC West and they had no way to get into the title game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're just waiting on number 2 and 1. But it's going to be Michigan 2, Alabama 1. So it's something else. So it's going to be Michigan versus Georgia, Cincinnati versus Alabama. So we're going to see. We're going to see, man. Right now, off of recency bias, I'd take Michigan over Georgia.
I would. If Michigan can get their running game going like they did against Ohio State, I think they'll win. Because Georgia's defense.
I thought they had Alabama at 2. I was like, holy shit.
Whoa.
Because they showed Alabama first, but I was like, wait, I thought they were saving. They did the bait and switch. All right, yeah. So Byron, we called it correctly in our messages of yesterday. I mean, Alabama versus Cincinnati. They're going to have Alabama be like a 30 million point favorite, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Michigan versus Georgia. And with the Ohio State fans saying, oh, man, they're going to get killed again. Listen, we've been killed. We were just killed last year.
Right.
We got smoked.
We were killed a year after we won the national championship.
Yeah. We know, like, it's okay. So now put us Byron, we're going to be in the Rose Bowl, probably going against Utah.
Yes.
It's the only concern is that they beat Oregon twice, and last time we saw Oregon, they bullied us.
They bullied us, and then Utah bullied Oregon. So by transitive property, Utah's going to bully us.
And we also don't know who's going to be playing because that's new, which I'm not a fan of. Sometimes is the not playing in your bowl game.
Yeah,
you want to save yourself for the league, even though you'll have a whole off season to save yourself for the league, and it isn't And one of the poster childs, the very first person to do that was Christian McCaffrey, and he still can't stay healthy.
Well,
so we got these games on Friday, New Year's Eve, Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, Georgia. I feel like they gotta make Alabama, Cincinnati the main event.
Of course they're going to put Alabama as the main event.
Yeah, they gotta make them last. So, Byron, we have a Big Ten team, 2 SEC teams because Georgia failed the community, and we have an AAC team. If Ohio State would have beat Michigan, it would have been Ohio State versus Georgia, Cincinnati versus Alabama. It literally would have been Ohio versus the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I know everyone's going to pick Alabama to win. Cincinnati, I'm going Michigan right now. I think Saban's going to get his 8th, which – it's crazy because last Saturday, the season was going to end to Auburn because they weren't going to let a 2-loss Alabama team. That's no way. Well, we can't say no way because it's Alabama.
We can't. But hopefully, a 2-loss Alabama wouldn't have got in if Auburn and or Georgia, would have completed the mission. But it's okay. We have 2 SEC teams. Like I said, I'm rooting for big Cincinnati to upset Alabama. But it's probably not going to happen, and Saban is probably going to win his 8th, which is wild.
Oh, it's something serious. So, yeah, we'll go to the Rose Bowl. We'll play Utah. I don't think we'll have a issue with that. But, yeah. Byron, anything else?
No, I think we covered all the big news.
Okay.
Oh, it was announced today that the Clemson's defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, is probably going to take the Oklahoma job.
That's interesting because the key for Clemson has been they've always been able to keep their staff.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, their top defensive coordinator is leaving. So it'll be interesting who Dabo replaces him with.
Yeah.
But, man, Byron, now looking at the Final Four again, Pac-12 out,
mm-hmm.
Big 12 out,
mm-hmm.
ACC out.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 Power 5 conferences out.
The ACC,
they were out a long time ago.
They were out a long time ago. Clemson, Wake Forest tried to, be a ACC representative, but as soon as they were ranked number 10, they lost. So ACC was out. If Oklahoma State had taken care of business, this might have been a different looking playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. But now with Ohio State being 6, they're going to run. I need to see the rest of the rankings. So I need to see how high people jumped or dropped.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see where Baylor is. I would say they're probably number 7.
Like I had the college football playoff site on right now. They still haven't updated. It's still on week 14 on their playoff pictures site. But I want to know. Yeah, they still have the old. You can get it quicker on Twitter than you can get it on their own site.
That is hilarious. The power of the internet.
Yeah, because the rankings. Yeah, their rankings, they still only have week 14. And they're going to use the rest of the show to
announce the bowl matches. I'm just scrolling through Twitter and someone said Georgia doesn't deserve to go to the playoffs. If you lose your conference championship game by 17 points, you aren't good enough. the best one is a 3-loss team ranked 20th, and they only beat them by 7 points. Well,
is you reading Mr. Ohio?
yeah, Mr. Ohio.
I mean, they weren't, because the committee has had they've had Georgia number 1 from start literally to the finish. Like, they were number 1 all year until they lost to Alabama. And it's crazy too how one loss could really just change your whole perception of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were just like, man, we don't want to play Alabama. We don't want to play that defense. We don't want to go against that defensive front four. Like, they're going to kill our offensive line. To now, like, man, was Georgia's defense really that good, or are they just playing teams who had no offensive talent like Iowa?
Well, man, I was so high on Iowa too. I really thought they were going to the playoffs.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
So we're going to have to wait, unfortunately, until after we're done with this episode to see the rest of the rankings, and we'll talk amongst our group chat and maybe bring it back when we come back, talk college football, to see where else everyone ranked.
Yep, it'll be very interesting to see the rest of the top 10.
Byron, next time we'll be back is talking some Rose Bowl recap and going from there, unless something crazy happens in college football.
Yeah, Rose Bowl recap. Probably their preview the national championship, even though we're not in it, but still got to talk about it.
Well, if that team up north's in it, then
well,
everything changes now. We go from can't beat it's crazy. You win one game, you go from can't beat your rivals to now have a chance to play for a natty.
Oh, for one game. That's insane. That's insane.
With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Twitch, Apple, everything. And we will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.